Good evening and welcome to Inside City Hall for Monday, September 29th, 2025. I'm Ayana Harry in for Errol Lewis. A day after he leveled the political landscape by dropping his reelection bid, Mayor Adams today kept a low profile, but the fallout continued on the campaign trail. We've got reaction from Zohran Mamdani and Curtis Sliwa, and political anchor Errol Lewis met with Andrew Cuomo for a one-on-one interview. We'll bring you more on that in a few minutes. But first, we have team coverage for you tonight as a three-way contest in the race for mayor is officially set. We begin tonight with our Kelly Mena, who joins me now with tonight's top story. Kelly, good evening.
Good evening, Ayana. And Mayor Adams, normally a very public official, kept a very low profile on Monday. Now that rumors and speculation around his reelection bid have ended. It's been one day since Mayor Adams dropped his reelection bid. The news came on Sunday afternoon after weeks of speculation that he was bowing out of the race with low poll numbers. In the wake of the news, the mayor stayed out of the spotlight with no public events. Adams did show himself helping a fellow New Yorker in need in Harlem.
How are you? You're doing the real work now, huh? I'm bringing to the curb.
Adams' moment was reminiscent of ex-Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is known for showing himself helping stranded drivers during blizzards. Meanwhile, Adams' decision to quit the race was met by some at City Hall with sadness, while others were bittersweet to see the mayor not fighting until the end. New York One spoke to some of the staff and employees on Monday morning, where it was business as usual. Some said they hoped maybe they could continue to serve the city under the new administration. It was through a video message just after 1 p.m. on Sunday that the public and staffers heard Adams announce his departure.
The constant media speculation about my future and the campaign finance board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds needed for a serious campaign.
Some workers close to the mayor say they only got notice he was quitting about an hour before. A City Hall spokesman said the mayor will not be holding public events Tuesday and could potentially emerge by Wednesday. The mayor still has more than 3 months left in his term, which ends December 31st. And tomorrow, one of the mayor's top officials, First Deputy Mayor Randy Mastro, is expected to talk about the legacy and successes of the Adams administration in the wake of the mayor dropping out of the race, Ayana.
Kelly, what are you hearing from your sources within the Adams campaign? These are people who spent weeks and some even months working to get the mayor reelected. How are they reacting to this news?
Yeah, Ayana, some of them very disappointed. They feel like they really didn't get an opportunity to sell the mayor as a candidate, that he was really dragged down by the previous scandals, previous distractions for them, and they didn't get to rebrand him. They didn't really get off and running, as we say, in races. And so they feel like if they had an opportunity to do it again, that's probably where they would fight. But there was a lot of challenges, and they hope the best for the mayor going forward.
Okay, Kelly, we appreciate that update. And in the wake of Eric Adams' departure from the mayoral race, Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani was back campaigning today, and Mamdani turned his focus to former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Our Bernadette Hogan joins me now with that part of the story. Hi, Bernadette.
Good evening, Ayana. And Mamdani says it's not slowing his role. And when asked what exactly the voters that were planning on casting their ballot for Eric Adams, who they'll choose, he says he's always got room in his campaign and his vision for the city for more people.
Eric Adams' record and the ways in which it has priced out so many New Yorkers, we must remember that that is Andrew Cuomo's agenda for these next 4 years.
Wasting no time on Monday, Zohran Mamdani was back on the campaign trail, linking former rival Mayor Eric Adams with current rival Andrew Cuomo.
I think New Yorkers are sick and tired.
Arguing Adams lost the confidence of New Yorkers. Mamdani says Cuomo's platform is also part of the politics of the past.
For New Yorkers who are struggling to afford the most expensive city in the United States of America, nothing has changed. Because it's not just about who's on the ballot. It's about what's on the ballot.
Highlighting past cuts to a healthcare benefit plan Cuomo greenlit as governor. Mamdani tried to shine a spotlight on his opponent's time in office as a glimpse into what a possible Cuomo City Hall would look like.
You know, Eric Adams' words are sometimes the ones that come to mind around Andrew Cuomo being a liar and a snake, and that is also someone who I continue to run against.
Adams' exit also drew attention from President Donald Trump, who warned in a social media post Monday that a Mamdani win would, quote, have problems with Washington like no mayor in the history of our once great city. Adding, quote, remember, he needs the money from me as president in order to fulfill all his fake communist promises. He won't be getting any of it, so what's the point in voting for him?
I think that Donald Trump is going through the stages of grief.
The Democratic hopeful's promises to deliver free city buses and municipal-run grocery stores could be hit by federal cuts, as both the city and the state are already bracing for impacts to trimmed-back health care benefits. Mamdani said he would hold the line on basic city services, like sanitation, but would analyze department contracts that have led to inefficiencies.
4 years ago, Eric Adams ran a campaign with a promise to bring the voices of the outer boroughs to City Hall, a promise to deliver safety and justice to New Yorkers. Those New Yorkers are still here. They still call this city home. And my pledge to them is that this is the campaign that will fulfill those promises.
So some harsh criticism for Mayor Adams on behalf of Mamdani, saying that, you know, in the past 4 years, the Adams administration has continued to leave New Yorkers hanging, especially those that really helped put him over the top back in 2021, Ayanna.
And Bernadette, with just over a month until Election Day, Zohran Mamdani still has a sizable amount of campaign cash in his account. Any word or any updates on how he plans on using some of this funding?
Well, there's new reporting that the Mamdani campaign has put about $35,000 behind an ad buy that would show a commercial promoting Mamdani's candidacy in front of a playoff baseball game. I talked to the campaign. They said that we might see more of these ad buys. It's part of a new 7-figure push that they're going to be spending money ahead of the November general election.
All right, Bernadette, thank you for the campaign update. And with Mayor Adams out of the race, Republican Curtis Sliwa says that he now has the freedom to focus on his real opponents, Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo. But Sliwa is facing pressure to end his campaign if he can't compete directly with frontrunner Mamdani. Our Dan Rivley has that part of the story. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Ayanna. So that's right. There is a pressure campaign on Sliwa to end his bid for mayor. So Andrew Cuomo has a direct shot at Mamdani, but Sliwa is rejecting it and still campaigning vigorously, saying he's going to make his case to voters that Cuomo and Mamdani are more alike than voters think.
I don't surrender. I don't retreat.
Curtis Sliwa unbowed, the Republican nominee for mayor refusing to drop his campaign to give Andrew Cuomo a shot at beating Zohran Mamdani one-on-one, a demand he says is coming from billionaires. Who, he won't say. Sliwa says they've tried to bribe him in the form of help to his Guardian Angels group or his pet passion, animal welfare.
I don't want the billionaires involved in this race, but clearly they won't butt out.
Still, the pressure is on.
There were people, including the Daily News this morning, who are saying that you need to drop out. That you don't have a shot.
One billionaire suggesting Sliwa should consider leaving the race, his boss, John Catsimatidis, who owns the station that broadcasts Sliwa's radio show.
In 2 weeks from now, if he hasn't shown any progress, how do you say it? How does Sergeant Schultz say it? Machine kaput.
With Mayor Eric Adams no longer in the race,
I will not sit shiver for him.
Sliwa is focusing on Mamdani and Cuomo.
If you go issue after issue after issue, Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo share so many of the same belief systems.
Particularly on laws on closing Rikers Island, looser bail terms for criminal suspects, and raising the age of criminal responsibility to 18 years old.
We need to get law and order and policing back on track.
And Sliwa is pushing his own affordability agenda that's different than Mamdani's.
You cut the budget, you cut the taxes, no more of these speed cameras, no more congestion pricing, no more of these fees and fines that are destroying the blue-collar working class.
A message he'll take throughout the streets and the subway. Now, Sliwa said he's been offered bribes to drop out. People working on behalf of Andrew Cuomo. Now, Cuomo's campaign vigorously denies this, says Sliwa is lying, and he's had a history of setting up fake crimes during the Guardian Angels heyday. But Sliwa did offer more details. He said these calls were happening in late June, and they were offering money, resources, and jobs. But he said that the calls stopped when he threatened to record them and go to authorities. Ayanna?
So, Dan, if the calls happened in late June, Did Curtis Sliwa give any context as to why he's now waiting till September to speak about this?
No, he didn't. He's been pressed about more details. He says he wants to move on from this. He's not going to divulge who are making these calls, other than to say these are some sort of childhood friends. But he really does not want to give up any names. He's not snitching on anybody, but he wants to move forward, and he's trying to show voters that there are people trying to get him out, but he's still staying in this race.
And Kelly, I want to bring you back into the conversation. The question that so many people have right now is, will Mayor Eric Adams endorse someone else in this race? Do you have any indication at this point?
I don't have any indication. I don't think he will. Just following him every single day, the mayor is a very prideful man. He does not have any good blood for the ex-governor Andrew Cuomo, and does not align when it comes to values and politics, when it comes to Zohran Mamdani, and he doesn't believe that Curtis Sliwa is a serious candidate. So I can't see him necessarily endorsing anybody, but maybe he could softly endorse somebody, not name them, but say, you know, signal that somebody that is running in the race could be somebody that voters that were in his camp could vote for come November.
And Bernadette, do you see any indication from the Mamdani campaign that he is going to perhaps change his strategy at all with the mayor out of the race, or does he have a winning strategy that's working and they're going to keep leaning into it?
Yeah, I think that's the case. Mamdani says that, look, we were able to attract young voters, people that have never voted in their life. I mean, he shares a bunch of anecdotes. He said, you know, somebody that is in Astoria, their elderly father is in his 90s and has never voted before, but he's going to register to vote in this upcoming mayoral election. You know, Mamdani's campaign benefits from a creativity. You know, they've had certain events like scavenger hunts around the city. You know, they're designing certain buttons with campaign slogans on them that they're getting potential voters and supporters to be involved with. They're hoping that that continues to carry them through and be successful in November.
Dan, did you get any sense that Curtis Sliwa may now be trying to go to appeal to that 7 to 9% of New York City voters who were interested in voting for Eric Adams?
Well, he trashes Eric Adams pretty harshly. He was asked to reflect on his record, and he really said nothing good about him, except, well, he was the best nightlife mayor we've had in a while. So a little bit condescending. That being said, he does have a message that appeals to people who liked Adams, his policing background, his strategy on crime and disorder. Those are things Curtis Sliwa talks about. Even on affordability, you know, Mayor Adams went to Albany and said, cut the New York City income tax rate for low-income working New Yorkers. Sliwa says the same thing. Let's cut the income tax. So he's trying to appeal on policy, not personality.
Interesting. Dan, Bernadette, and Kelly, thank you. And it is time for a break. Coming up, political anchor Errol Lewis met up with Andrew Cuomo in Manhattan earlier today for a wide-ranging interview. We'll bring you a preview next. And later tonight, I'll be joined by the commissioner of the Department of Investigation to talk about a new report which found a correction officer unknowingly violated sanctuary laws. We are back in 2 minutes.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test?
Sure, why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of, they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. you can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done at the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where we're keeping our focus on the race for mayor. With Mayor Adams dropping out of the race, the stage is now set for a three-way contest between Zohran Mamdani, Curtis Sliwa, and Andrew Cuomo. New York One political anchor Errol Lewis caught up with the former governor for a wide-ranging interview, including his reaction to the mayor dropping out, what it means for his own campaign, how President Trump has loomed large over the race, and much more. Errol joins me now with more on his conversation with the former governor. Good evening, Errol.
Good to see you. The former governor, has a lot ahead of him. He's gotten now the race that he wanted. He said he wanted to be in a one-on-one race with Mamdani, and he's a big step closer to that now that Eric Adams has dropped out of the race.
And Eric Adams had some pretty harsh things to say about Andrew Cuomo, the comment calling him a snake and a liar. What are we hearing from Andrew Cuomo now that Eric Adams has stepped aside?
You know, it's remarkable how professional politicians can put a comment like that behind them. If somebody ever said that about me, I'd probably remember for the rest of my life. Andrew Cuomo, on the other hand, has said, look, it's the heat of battle. We're going to probably just move on. And he actually expressed some interesting levels of support and concern for Mayor Adams. Here's part of what we talked about.
I look forward to talking to him, but I have not. Obviously, his support would be great. Everyone's support, right? Democrats, Republicans, Independents. But more on a personal level, I just hope he's at peace with his decision. And my guess is he has to sit with it for a while.
You know, it's interesting. It's something that they both have in common.
Yeah.
Of course, that, you know, Governor Cuomo stepped down and he really did not want to, but he really kind of had no choice back in 2021.
Yeah, it stood out to me when Cuomo said he hopes Eric Adams is at peace, because it feels like in some ways, or at least earlier in the campaign, it felt like Andrew Cuomo wasn't fully at peace with his own decision to step down as governor. Did Cuomo sound open to an Adams endorsement?
Yes, he made it sound as if the two of them have something in common, which is they both think that Zohran Mamdani would be very bad for the city. Not just the wrong candidate, but somebody who would really harm the city in some fundamental way. And so he basically has said he expects to work with Eric Adams. He hopes to have his support, openly or not. We know that the mayor's former chief of staff, Frank Carone, a close advisor, is starting a PAC in order to support Andrew Cuomo. He was with us yesterday and said that he fully supports the former governor.
Interesting. We will have to keep a close eye on that. President Donald Trump also weighed in on the race for mayor today again, threatening once again to potentially hold federal funds if Zohran Mamdani were to become mayor. What did Andrew Cuomo have to say about the influence Donald Trump has had in this race, and also the critical words Trump has had for Democratic-run cities?
You know, it's been interesting to see Andrew Cuomo try and sort of thread this needle, but he basically is saying some of the same things that President Trump is saying, that Mamdani is a problem, he's fundamentally different way of life, we shouldn't elect him. At the same time, he is warning that Andrew Cuomo is warning that President Trump wants to see Democratic cities as a whole, and certainly New York City, as poorly run, as places where things are out of control, where there's too much homelessness, there's too much poverty, crime is not being taken care of, and use that as an excuse to then intervene in those cities. And I asked him, this is interesting, I asked him, hey, does the president have a point about this? And this is what Andrew Cuomo had to say about that.
Does he have a point? That yes. Have you seen urban areas decay, especially post-COVID? Yes, you have. Have you seen people move out of cities? Remote work, Zoom work, reduction in resources, increase in homelessness? Yes, you have. You go through Los Angeles, go through San Francisco, you see evidence, and that's what he's responding to, right?
And of course, the Cuomo's point being that if we let President Trump do it, he will make those kind of interventions in New York.
This is certainly an insightful interview. Thank you, Errol. And we'll bring you Errol's full interview with Andrew Cuomo tomorrow night right here on Inside City Hall. In other news, 3 casino proposals are now headed to a state board to vie for one of 3 downstate casino licenses that could be handed out by year's end. Community advisory committees voted down the 3 Manhattan casino proposals this month. And today, a committee voted down the Coney Island casino proposal. Early this morning, another panel, Bally's Bronx Casino, was approved to move on to the next phase of the process in a 5-1 vote. New York One's Nia Clark has the latest in this report.
The application has been disapproved.
Any hope of turning a controversial proposal to build a casino in Coney Island into a reality died after community leaders rejected the idea.
I think it's a horrible idea.
I think it would have been a great opportunity for us to just really just start to expand what Coney Island is all about.
The Coney, a proposed $3 billion casino and resort, would have sat on Surf Avenue, stretching from West 12th to West 15th Street, and included a 500-room hotel, a convention center, and a concert venue. But a community advisory committee tasked with reviewing the project application voted Monday 4-2, killing the proposal, despite the promise of generating thousands of jobs.
The Coney only promised that 9% of jobs would go to Coney Island. That's just insulting, frankly.
City Council member Justin Brennan is among those on the advisory committee who voted no, saying the Coney would be bad for the local economy.
People forget that this is not Six Flags Great Adventure. This is a residential neighborhood.
Samantha Nara believes the casino would damage the neighborhood's quality of life.
My husband has brain cancer. We live on 20th Street. It's one of the busiest streets in this neighborhood, and there's only 2 exits from this peninsula, and the traffic this would build could potentially put his life in danger and also the elderly community.
But many Coney Island residents thought a casino would have helped revitalize the community.
The casino would have been an opportunity for them to get back and beautify Coney Island and probably do some great things out here. We've been long as a suffering community for years.
Monday morning, another community advisory committee approved the Bally's Corporation's $4 billion casino proposal for the Bronx, a 500,000 square foot gaming hall next to its golf course at Ferry Point Park in Throgs Neck. Last week, separate advisory committees voted to approve proposals to expand the Resorts World Casino at Aqueduct Raceway in Queens and the Empire City Casino in Yonkers. All 3 proposals will now advance to the next round of consideration by a state board, which could hand out as many as 3 separate casino licenses by the end of this year. Tuesday is the next and last community advisory committee vote, this one for Metropolitan Park at City Field, which is being led by Mets owner Steve Cohen. Reporting from Coney Island, Nia Clark, New York One.
It is time for a break. Coming up, President Trump met with top congressional leaders at the White House earlier in a last-minute effort ahead of tomorrow's deadline to avert a government shutdown. We'll bring you a report from Washington, D.C. next. Stay with us.
This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York One for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.
It's only a game. It's only a little rivalry. It's only a ritual. When I come home and a few generations. You're always there. And only Spectrum TV includes all your favorite streaming apps with live TV at no extra cost. It's only a game. It's only everything.
Mom
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time. And she'd buy the same gifts over and over. Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard. At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first, stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Congressional leaders met with President Donald Trump at the White House as they seek an agreement to avoid a government shutdown. But the two sides remained far away as they left the meeting earlier this evening. A shutdown will begin when the clock strikes midnight early Wednesday morning unless they strike a deal. Spectrum News national reporter Evan Kosloff has more from Capitol Hill.
Here on Capitol Hill, there's a lot of concern about a government shutdown. That's because the deadline is fast approaching. The money will run out when the new budget year begins Wednesday morning. That's in part why President Donald Trump invited congressional leaders to the White House Monday afternoon for last-ditch talks to keep the government open.
We just had a very frank conversation.
There was a frank and direct discussion.
Both sides left the meeting expressing major differences, raising the prospect of a government shutdown.
Their bill has not one iota of Democratic input. That is never how we've done this before.
I think we're headed into a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing.
So here's what the debate is all about. Republicans want to pass a stopgap measure that would keep the government funded at mostly the current level until November, all to buy time for an agreement on a full-year deal. But to get this passed, they'll need the buy-in of a handful of Democrats in the Senate. And so far, Democrats have been withholding their votes, demanding health care concessions. That includes the extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies, which are set to expire later this year.
Democrats are fighting to protect the health care of the American people. This is purely and simply hostage-taking.
Now, a shutdown would have big impacts, especially on federal workers. If the money runs out, essential workers like air traffic controllers and those in the military will have to keep working, but they won't get paid until this is all over. Meanwhile, workers that are deemed non-essential would likely face furloughs. And many services, from national park maintenance to small business loan approvals, would be affected. The White House Budget Office is also directing federal agencies to prepare for mass layoffs in the case of a shutdown. Now, the last time that we had a shutdown was back in late 2018, heading into 2019. That lasted a whopping 35 days. Reporting here on Capitol Hill, I'm Evan Kosloff, Spectrum News.
It is now time for a break. Coming up, a new investigation found that a correction officer shared information about undocumented immigrants with federal immigration authorities violating sanctuary laws. I'll talk it over with Jocelyn Strauber, the commissioner of the Department of Investigation. Next, stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Burke.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings.
To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm Chris Jackamick. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jackamick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Thank you for staying with us. A new report by the city's Department of Investigation finds that a correction officer violated sanctuary laws by providing details to federal immigration authorities about 2 undocumented immigrants being held in city jails. The officer's actions led to the arrest of one of the detainees. The report found that the officer, quote, unwittingly breached the law because they had not been properly trained on when and how to share information with federal authorities. In response, the report recommended a number of changes to the Department of Correction in order to prevent another violation. Joining me now to talk about this report and much more is Jocelyn Strauber, the Commissioner of the Department of Investigation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off with just how did this investigation come together and how did you come to know that there may have been an issue here?
Well, it came to us in the way many investigations do, which is that we received a complaint. We received numerous complaints over the course of a year from members of the public. And when we get those complaints, we commence an investigation as we did here. Here, the complaint was that an investigator with the Department of Correction had assisted ICE in the arrest of individuals. And so we took a look at that, and we did substantiate the complaint and find that impermissible assistance was provided.
And in reading through the report, the person who was arrested, it seems that shortly after they were released from Rikers Island, did this officer follow them? How were they apprehended by ICE? Tell me a little bit more about what that cooperation ultimately looked like.
That's correct. Well, first of all, the officer provided information to ICE about the person's custody status. That's not permitted under the city's sanctuary city laws. He directed that the individual be held at Rikers for a little bit of additional time until he could be there to surveil the individual as he left Rikers Island. He provided information essentially in real time to Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents who subsequently apprehended the individual after he had left Rikers Island.
And the person who was apprehended, they became posted on social media by the White House.
That is our understanding. This was someone who was arrested not in a federal criminal case, but arrested for purposes of immigration enforcement and who we believe was ultimately deported.
What have you learned about what training was like on Rikers Island regarding when an officer can or cannot cooperate with federal immigration authorities? What was the training like before this investigation?
There was really no training to speak of at this time. There was a directive from 2019 that did make clear that corrections officers could not assist in civil immigration enforcement, but did not really make clear what that actually meant. So this officer, who like a number of officers at DOC is part of a federal task force, was used to working with federal agents, understood that he might get requests for information, and that he could legitimately respond to those requests, again, in furtherance of federal criminal investigations. What he wasn't told or taught was that in the current environment, where ICE is ramping up its activities in New York City, he should be asking the officers reaching out to him to make sure that what he was working on was legitimately a federal criminal investigation and not civil immigration enforcement. That didn't happen here. He assumed that he was assisting in a federal criminal case when in fact he was not.
The mayor was asked about this report and he characterized it as what ultimately happened here, a human mistake. Is that how you see this?
I really see this as a failure of guidance and training. I mean, of course, the officer made a mistake in the sense that he didn't realize he was assisting with immigration enforcement. But the reason he didn't realize that is he wasn't given the tools to determine how to do his job in accordance with sanctuary city law. And I think that's really what the report shows.
Walk me through some of the policy recommendations the department is now put forward to the Department of Correction in the wake of this investigation and report.
Well, most importantly is enhanced training to the officers who regularly deal with federal agents. And in fact, as soon as we realized what had happened here, we reached out to the Department of Correction. This was months ago. We informed them of the issues so that they could begin providing additional training. And it's our understanding that they have done that, and that they'll continue to look for opportunities to do that. Another recommendation that we made was that an audit be conducted to determine whether there were other incidents like this. We did a limited email review, and we identified at least one other officer who likely impermissibly shared information, but it really is for the Department of Correction to assure that this isn't happening in a more widespread way. Now, their response to that recommendation was that that wasn't feasible and practical given the resources they have, but it was something that we recommended as well.
I know this probe focused on the Department of Correction, but any indication that there may be issues in other city departments when it comes to training of city employees in terms of what can or cannot be done when it comes to the city sanctuary laws?
Well, one thing that we're looking at after receiving a referral from the City Council is the question of how the NYPD works with federal agents, like the Department of Correction, like our agency. Many city employees are part of federal task forces. And so we're looking at the request of the City Council to make sure that the NYPD is providing proper training and ensuring that the assistance provided is consistent with sanctuary city law and doesn't go beyond it. And I expect that we'll be issuing a report on our findings in that investigation later this year.
How long did this investigation take from the moment you received a tip to the moment when you were able to put out a report and these recommendations?
It's a good question. We began looking at this, I believe, much earlier in the year, maybe beginning of the year, February, and we were able to issue the report, as you know, just last week.
And for people who are unfamiliar with how DOI investigations work, what type of resources do you use? What goes into building a case like this?
Well, every case is different, but in this case, we have access to emails of city employees. So we were looking at emails to see what communications might have been undertaken to facilitate this assistance to immigration enforcement. We looked at video from various points at Rikers Island. It showed, for example, the person in custody getting on the bus to leave the island. It showed the surveillance that the corrections investigator was conducting inside a black van. And we conduct interviews of city employees, and we spoke here in particular with the investigator in question.
I want to ask you about a separate investigation into deaths in NYPD custody. Just this year, there have been 9 deaths, last year 25, and in 2023, there were 18 deaths. I know this investigation is still underway, but what can you tell us so far?
I mean, what I can tell you is that we've begun an investigation. We got a referral and a request to look at it, not only from the Legal Aid Society, but we've also been closely following the media reports on this issue. It's obviously a significant one. And so we've opened an investigation that's in its early stages. And given the way we do our work and the sort of thorough process that we undertake before we issue findings, I can't really tell you more than that at this point.
All right, well, we appreciate what you have been able to share, and thank you so much for joining us this evening, Commissioner. And it is time for a break. Coming up, we'll turn back to Mayor Adams' decision to drop his re-election bid and how it changed the race when I'm joined by 2 top consultants. Stay with us.
The next downtown Local 6 train to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall will arrive in 2 minutes.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer.
I'm so honored to be a meteorologist here at New York One because as a Brooklyn kid, this is the station that I grew up watching. Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our weather on the ones. Watch the New York One weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything, Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where we are turning back to our top story. Eric Adams is officially a one-term mayor after ending his re-election campaign yesterday. What does his decision mean for the race for mayor? Joining me now to discuss that and much more are two members of this week's Consultants Corner, Democratic consultants Tara Martin and Austin Shafran. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
So, Austin, how is the race for mayor different today than it was 48 hours ago?
Well, there's one fewer person in it. Aside from that, the numbers may not change drastically. Eric Adams was not polling well. His base has all but left him. A lot of those voters that you did see sticking with them in some of the more recent polling were probably ones that had a direct connection with Eric that was developed over the years. It is not clear that any of them are going to now move over to one of the other candidates and decidedly change the outcome in the race. I think, you know, what the numbers are showing now is that Zohran has a very solid lock on plus 45% of the electorate, and he's gaining with communities of color and all sorts of other voting cohorts.
Tara, the mayor in recent polls had between 7 and 9% support. Where do you believe those voters are going to turn to, or will some of them still vote for Eric Adams? His name is still going to be on the ballot.
I think those voters are going to be looking for either a Cuomo or a Sliwa possibility. As you know, Austin had mentioned, you know, a lot of those folks who were still supporting Eric were there from loyalty because they had personal relationships with the mayor, or they've gotten something substantial from this particular administration and they just feel a loyalty to him. Now those folks are going to begin to look for another place to call a home. The interesting part with this cycle is that we are now seeing, for one of the fewest times in New York City electoral history, that black and brown communities are swing voters. These are the people who basically built the base for Eric Adams 4 years ago, and they are now looking for a political home. And right now, those communities are kind of having to reckon with, do they sign up and believe in Mamdani's movement politics versus Andrew Cuomo, sort of the old guard establishment, and someone that they've known for many years. But ultimately, this is going to come down to trust and authenticity. And I think Andrew Cuomo has to earn that trust.
I wonder if we'll see a generational divide in voters of colors deciding now where they will go, people who, you know, perhaps traditionally were voting for the mayor.
So we've seen those primary numbers where so many people under the age of 30 who ended up supporting Zohran Mamdani, who were black and brown, folks who lived in Bed-Stuy, folks who lived in Clinton Hill, folks who lived in Southeast Queens and other places, they broke with him. You hear so many conversations about how older black and brown voters, you know, got the news about Mamdani because of their kids and their grandkids, which is a beautiful thing. You love to see generations voting together. However, for Andrew Cuomo, the biggest issue here is you got what you asked for. You wanted a smaller race. You wanted a smaller runway. Now you have it. But now you have to go back to those new, quote-unquote, swing voters, the folks who've had those relationships for all these years, and not only reintroduce yourself, but you have to come from a place of authenticity and trust.
Austin, do you suspect we might see an Eric Adams endorsement of Andrew Cuomo? Stranger things have happened.
Girl, bye.
Stranger things have happened, and and this is New York politics, so you never know what will happen, but based on the mayor's statements from just a few weeks ago, where he called Andrew Cuomo a snake and a liar, that doesn't really feel like, you know, bumper sticker material. I think it is very doubtful. I think that the mayor feels that Andrew Cuomo played a hand in influencing the decision, in maybe behind the scenes, potentially trying to push him out of the race. And I think that, you know, the mayor is anything but an independent-minded thinker, and it seems very unlikely that he would now, you know, all of a sudden turn and offer his endorsement to to Andrew Cuomo after he feels he's been significantly mistreated by the governor.
I would double back on that and definitely lean into it even further, because putting the politics aside, Eric Adams has always believed that being mayor was the best job this job he's always wanted.
Right, he said it was ordained, that God spoke to him that this was going to happen.
And he genuinely means that. This was the best job in the world, and he was always happy to be our mayor. However, to be made to feel as if all of the sacrifice that you have done over your years of public service has been taken for granted and misconstrued in a negative way, and that now the one job that you love, you feel you're being forced to give up because of the politics of the day, that's a very personal decision for Eric Adams. And I think jumping to endorse anyone at this point is something I just don't see the mayor doing, because he's still in his heart, he wants to be mayor. I think he's come to the understanding that the pathway forward just doesn't exist for him. But that doesn't mean in his heart he won't feel like he's always going to be New York City's mayor.
Austin, the mayor has indicated he's going to be laying low over the next few days. If you were consulting him, is that the right strategy?
Yeah, continue to be the mayor. Put the politics aside for a moment. It is Eric Adams' dream job, and he's going to want to live out every moment of it. He's going to want to continue to travel the city, host events, hold people at City Hall and at Gracie Mansion, you know, legislate, administer. And I think, you know, instead of running away from the spotlight, I think you're going to see, and I would advise him to feel into himself to embrace the spotlight and be the mayor of New York City, arguably the greatest job in the world, and enjoy every moment of it and be as public about everything you're doing for the public that you love so much.
Okay, Austin, Tara, it is actually time for a break. I'll have more to talk about with these two consultants when we return. Stay with us.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 on Spectrum News New York 1. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Floor's Fire Design House. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. Spectrum helps me stay online. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. Without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
Get up to 4 months free when you bundle award-winning internet. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
with the campaign finance board making their decision to prohibit the mayor from having the necessary funds to campaign because the messaging was not hitting the masses through vis-a-vis the polling that we would have liked, and the rest of the issues surrounding the mayor. He made a very courageous decision. I think history is going to judge him and the administration very, very well.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. That was Frank Carone, the mayor's former chief of staff on New York One yesterday, talking about what led him to drop out of the race and his administration's legacy. I'm once again joined by my consultants corner, Democratic consultants Tara Martin and Austin Shaffron. Tara, I want to start with you. Frank Carone, who has been such a close Adams ally for so many years, he's now going to be helping Andrew Cuomo get elected. Are you surprised?
A little bit, but not so much.
Okay.
Frank is a brilliant guy, brilliant strategist, incredible campaigner. I think Frank Carone has so much more to give to the city of New York, and this is a way to make sure that the right candidate is elected to mayor, but also this is an opportunity for him to, stop the rise of the DSA and the ultra-left faction that's growing in New York. And Frank knows that he has the political relationships, he's got the knowledge, the street smarts to support an Andrew Cuomo campaign. And to be honest with you, Andrew Cuomo needs all the help that he can get from really good advisors who understand what this next leg of this campaign looks like. And Frank Carone is a Brooklyn guy, and as a Bed-Stuy girl, I'm here to tell you, don't count out Brooklyn people, because one thing we know how to do is scrap when it's time to get in these streets and start turning out voters, and Frank understands that.
Austin, Frank also mentioned the mayor's legacy. When the history books are written, and there is a section, a chapter there on Eric Adams, his 4 years in office, what do you think will be in the first paragraph? How will he most be remembered?
I mean, it's complicated and it's complex. And are we talking about modern history or talking about ancient history? Because I think that the history and the legacy of Eric Adams is going to evolve over time. Certainly in the immediacy, the scandals are going to be the first thing that people find out about when they Google Eric Adams. And that's obviously unfortunate. But I think as time goes on, there are going to be a lot of substantive policy-based achievements that the mayor is going to receive his due credit for. I mean, he did help take the city from COVID, from the brink of disaster, and it's become largely safer. A lot of the jobs are back, businesses are doing better. By a number of metrics, the city is in a better position than it was. That's going to not be seen now because of the cloud of the scandal, but give it a few years, and that's something that I think is going to be a legacy that evolves for Eric Adams.
Tara, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, I mean, look, the great Brooklyn sage, Jay-Z, once said, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And Eric Adams' data is rock solid. He brought crime down. Gun violence has gone down in New York City in the last 3-4 years that he's been mayor. 84,000 new affordable housing units getting built, including the largest affordable housing unit happening in Willows Point. He's brought back New York from the brink in terms of our economy post-pandemic, and he's even landed, the World Cup for next year. Those are facts. That is not fiction. Yes, the mayor has made an incredible amount of missteps, and there have been a lot of scandal and investigation, and I think all of those
his own indictment.
Yes.
It was just a year ago in which we were sitting in Damian Williams' office, and he was announcing an indictment against the current sitting mayor of New York City.
I don't think there's any New Yorker or any political insider who can't remember the day where you were when that day happened. I just think that for all of the good that this administration has done over these years and the lives that they've changed, they have left the city, in terms of public policy, in a better position. It is just unfortunate that this will also be a black check mark against that legacy.
Will voters, will New Yorkers, will history also remember the people the mayor chose to associate himself with? Will that be part of his legacy as well?
It's got to be part of the conversation. You are the leader, you're the chief executive, and who you surround yourself is a direct reflection of your judgment. I do think, again, over time, we don't talk about city time so much when we think of Michael Bloomberg, right? We don't think of some of the campaign finance scandals that Bill de Blasio was involved in as much as we do think of him as the pre-K guy, right? There are moments where the relationship that a mayor has with the voters and their memory and their fondness of history starts to change. So as much as those people are a black mark against him now, I think the mayor and his achievements will singularly stand out over the course of, 5, 10, 15, 20 years when there's been some more room to breathe on the scandals.
So does Eric Adams have a political future?
I would never count Eric Adams out of anything.
Like, at the end of the day, Eric Adams is a very smart and tactical politician. He could be a power broker. He could be a validator on public safety in urban cities. He can be an advocate for black mayors around the country. There's definitely a space for Eric Adams in the political landscape. I just think that how he handles these next few weeks of this election cycle will determine what that space is. If he handles this gracefully and bows out and just kind of does his thing, that will put him in an even stronger position to actually choose his, direction. However, if he maintains a pettiness or anything to that extent, that could really torpedo what his long-term goals can be.
Have we seen any self-reflection from the mayor? In his video, he mentioned, the speculation of him potentially dropping out, which in part was fueled by some of his own statements. He mentioned the campaign finance board, but there were issues with his donations. Has the mayor learned any lessons from this ordeal, or is that just something that's personal and individual and up to him and we don't know?
I would hope so. I would hope so. The mayor has often talked about his faith. And I strongly believe that he is a man who genuinely leans on his faith to help make decisions. And I would hope that through this whole process that he realizes that his whole piece was a testimony, and that he does do that self-reflection. Now, whether he does that on a grand stage of being the mayor of New York, or does he do that self-reflection when he's in his house by himself and it's just him and Jesus, whatever it is, I would hope that he gets to that space, because I don't think he can go to the next phase of his political career without having that sense of self-reflection and accountability, whether it is the authorities that hold him accountable or he himself holds himself accountable.
We're going to have to end it there. Thank you so much, Tara Martin and Austin Chaffron, and that's going to do it for tonight's show. Thank you for watching and have a great evening. We'll see you next time right here on Inside City Hall.
That's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done at the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Florist Fire Design House. We are a full production wedding and event company that focuses on florals. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They were here the same day, had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. And if I'm contacting a merchant via email or placing an order online, without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
One more row.
Spectrum is reliable, they're committed, they're fast, and they really take care of me as a business owner. Last year, when the really bad hurricane came through, our internet stayed the entire time. One of the businesses down the street, she was like, wait a minute.